here we have the perfect day for talking through your initial setup of a picture, because as you can see the light is constantly changing because the sun's coming in and out. So we're going to have to, if we're on manual, we're going to have to change our settings quite often. So the first thing to do, if we go to the function set button, you've got your white balance. Now we're out in the daylight, even though the sun's going in and out, just keep it on sunlight because that is the general light that's affecting the picture right now. Now as you can see it's quite dark. There's three things that you need to concentrate on. You've got your ISO, which is here, you've got your shutter speed, which is here, and you've got your aperture, which is here, which is also known as the f-stop. Now all three things affect the light in your image. The first one is your ISO. Now if we press the ISO button, you'll see you've got a range of numbers that come up the top here. The higher you go, the more light it will let in your image. However, this will also make your image grainier, so if you can avoid going too high, it's always a good idea. So press the ISO again because it selected it for me, and we'll go down to about 400, maybe 200. Let's go for 200 because it's daylight, it will be okay. So obviously now the image has gone really dark. So what we'll do, this top button here will go between this shutter speed and this f point. You can see which one's selected because you've got those arrows either side. If you look at the manual focus video I talk about, you've got the green arrows. They're telling you if one of those greys out, you've gone too far down the scale and you won't be able to go any further. So we're on shutter speed. Now the shutter speed, it's determining how long the picture is being taken for. The longer the picture is being taken, the more light the camera can process, which means that your picture will be lighter. It's the easiest way to remember it. At the moment we're on a 1600th of a second, so that's a very fast shutter speed. That's why there's not a lot of light coming in and why you can only see the silhouette of the garden. So if we just use the wheel to turn that down, you see that the image is getting a lot lighter. So you can actually go really low on this scale. Once you get to this, which is like the inch sign, that's a second. So you're on a second shutter. That's far too long because there's far too much light coming in, and as you can see the screen is telling you you're not going to get a very good picture with that. So if we just turn this back up, we'll go to, I mean that looks quite good, so that's a 200th of a second, so that's still quite a quick shot. You won't have to worry about how stable you're holding the camera because it will take it quite quickly. So if we just press this top button here now, you'll see the arrows have now moved onto your f-stop aperture button. Now if we move this again, you can see again it's affecting the light in the image. In traditional photography it also affects how blurred the background is. The lower the number, the more blurred the background is, but it doesn't count in this case because the focus is all controlled on the camera. But the f-stop, again, it controls how much light is coming into the image. It basically controls how much it's letting in rather than the shutter speed, which is determining how long the picture is being taken for and therefore how much light is let in. This is a predetermined amount of light that's going to be let into the image. So the lower the aperture, the bigger the gap is for light to enter the picture. That's the best way I can describe it. So the bigger the gap, the lower the aperture, which is always a bit backwards and hard to understand, but once you've done it a few times you'll get used to it. And also the beauty of this camera is it shows you if you go to a higher number you're not getting as much light in because it's getting darker. So in this case I'm going to leave it at, in fact I'm going to put it down to 2.7 and I'm going to bring my shutter speed up, and by doing that it means that the picture's being taken quicker, which means I don't have to have such a steady hand. If I just take that picture now, So to run through those settings again, I've just moved indoors. I'm just giving the camera a second to focus. That's the one. And I had a question about capturing running water. So it's a little bit bright in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change my f-stop. As you can see here, I mean, you can vary what you're changing, but the quicker the shutter speed, the less you have to worry about holding the camera still. So it's always good to use the f-stop to change how much light's coming in, just so that your shutter speed doesn't have to be too low. But in this case, someone asked me, can you capture running water so it looks like it's smooth? You quite often see this when photographers are taking pictures of waterfalls and things. It looks like the water's all running smoothly in one sort of movement. So I'm just going to set up a shot so that the water bounces off of something. Okay, so sorry about the reflection, but as you can see, if I just zoom in, the water here, it's bouncing off of the cup. It's quite dark, so I'm just going to lower that shutter speed so that you can see it better. But the trick of this picture is that you have to have a slow shutter speed. If you take a fast shutter speed, it captures it just like that, which means that action shots are good on fast shutter speed because it's grabbing that picture as quick as it can. On slow shutter speed, that's when we get this sort of smooth looking water that I was asked about. So if we put it down to maybe a 1 second shot, so it's on 1 second, select that. Oops. Our ISO, let's bring it right down to 100, and our f-stop. So by pressing this one, we're going to change the f-stop. I'm going to bring it up to 8. Now that's still too bright, but our ISO won't go any lower, which means that in this lighting situation, the shutter speed, it's not going to work out that low. So we're going to have to try and do this. Let's go for on a third of a second. So what we want is for this water to look smooth. So if I try and hold my hand as still as I can and take this picture. Don't know if you can see that, but it basically looks like the water's running off very smoothly. It's really hard to do this in this lighting situation. I'm actually going to move in. So just as an example, I've just set up the hose to splash on the bird bath. I really hope this works. It stays where it's meant to stay because I'm balancing it here. So once I've got this set up properly, because it keeps slipping all over the place, I'll then take a picture on automatic and one on slow shutter so you can see the effect.